Hi there. Today we're going to be talking about Apple's second generation HomePod. So launched February 2023, the new HomePod looks essentially almost exactly the same as the old one. There's a slight difference on the top. You've got the permanent plus and minus volume buttons that you can see, whereas before they disappeared. It's slightly shorter in size than Generation 1, but you can barely notice the difference unless they're sat side by side. So it comes in two colours, the black that I've just shown you and a white cloth finish as well. It's fully recyclable material apparently on the outside. So in terms of price, we've got £299 British pounds, 299 US dollars or 479 Australian dollars. In terms of setting up, typical Apple product, plug and play. That being said, I plugged the first HomePod in, set up in 2 minutes. The second one took about 4 attempts and 15 minutes in total. And eventually they managed to talk to each other and they're set up as a stereo pair. So what's inside this little beauty? So we've got 5 tweeters. The Generation 1 had 7 tweeters. However, the difference with this, other than fewer tweeters, of course, is that they've changed the angles in which they face so that they are firing in a direction which will not bounce off the surface on which the HomePod is placed. So Apple have done some research into this and worked out better angles than Generation 1 tweeters were facing, and allegedly this has been improved in this iteration. Of course, as you would expect, they support spatial audio, which is great if you're playing Dolby Atmos tracks via Apple Music. Make a huge difference to Generation 1. If you play some music via AirPlay, there's not a huge difference. With a speaker of this size, you wouldn't really expect to hear a huge difference over AirPlay. Yeah, I couldn't notice a huge difference in my playing time with the speakers. As you would expect, it's a standard Apple product. It's not just a speaker. There's a lot of home integration options that you can facilitate with this product. So for example, it has a humidity sensor and a temperature sensor within it. So you can set your heating to come on when it senses that the room is a certain temperature, or if the humidity is too high, I suppose you could hook up your humidifier or dehumidifier to come on and get all that damp out of your room. You can also set a command so that if your security camera, for example, senses some kind of movement, let's say in the house, for example, the speaker or speakers will play an audible alarm, which could work or act as a deterrent. So whilst playing, the HomePod has a number of microphones inside, and the purpose of these are to, in real time, assess the volume and positioning of the music that is being played. The new S7 chip, which is inside, processes this data and it ensures that the sound is the best possible at any time. Initial thoughts? For the price, good pair of speakers, £299 for a pair. Can't really go wrong if you are an Apple convert. However, if you're not an Apple person, they're not going to be much use to you. You need Apple integration, you need iPhone, iPad, something through which you can play your music and integrate the system together. So I paired them with my Apple TV, 4K TV, and the vast improvement, as you would expect from the integrated television speaker, and a vast improvement on my sound bar that I currently had attached. They seem to be able to project sound, not as good as some speakers we've come across, but they project quite well, and maybe it's due to the rounded shape and the fact that they've got the speakers all the way round. They're able to give you a sense of traffic passing by you, and in quite a nice fashion that isn't very stilted or forced. Overall, I'd say that it's a bit of a confused product. It's not hugely different from Generation 1, which was discontinued. Generation 2 has come back without many changes. They're cheaper than Generation 1 when they were first released. But it's unlike Apple to produce something that is so similar without very many changes. I'm quite surprised by that. I'm quite surprised that there wasn't more, as I say, integration with streaming platforms. That will come next year when Apple are forced to kind of open up to more platforms, but we'll more about that another time. In terms of actual listening, music listening, so there's functionality within the app, the Home app, to reduce the bass if you feel it's a bit too boomy. I played around with this. Me personally, it was fine. I listened to both, lots of types of music. I was listening to a clarinet concerto, Mozart clarinet concerto, and I was able to really hear the clarinet fingering really, really well, which is something that you don't often hear in other systems sometimes. So the mid-range there was really interesting. That's something that I don't hear a lot when listening to that particular piece. And then listening to some music with more of a beat, you could really hear the bass, but it wasn't too much of a thump. It wasn't overpowered. Racked up the volume. You didn't lose any of that kind of clearness, the clarity. There weren't sort of rattles and shakes and all the kind of thing you'd expect from a relatively inexpensive pair of speakers. I think for the price point, they're worth it. They're not going to break the bank. They sit there in the background quite nicely. They're not going to offend anyone, and they'll give you decent quality of music, not audiophile grade, but certainly not unpleasant at all. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow the link for more, and we'll see you at the next one.